Well, hi, this is Custom Works. I'm Clint Allen, and today we're talking about the engine coolant temperature sensor. Yeah, we're going to hit down on all of them, but this is all over the big old Google web, and there's all kinds of questions of how many of them do I have? Well, grab your favorite sudsy treat or coffee, and we're going to let you know. Well, thanks for staying upright and keeping yourself glued to the old smartphone or computer. To answer the question, you have two engine temperature control sensors or engine coolant temperature sensors. So, where are they at? Well, let's start with OBS. OBS has always had two of them. And one is going to be on top, the one that we're most familiar with that sits on the cooling area or on the top of the water pump. That one we're all familiar with. The second one, that one is on the block, and you can see the picture in the back. I took a metal pencil and made it white so you can see where that plug is that is sitting on the front timing cover. Now this one right here has a plug in it. That is the indication that this motor came out of a automatic transmission Super Duty. If the plug was not there, then it would have been a manual. So to cover that real quick again, so there's no confusion, on a manual transmission, you'll have two of those sensors, one that's on the front of the block and one that's on the top of the water pump. And if you have a automatic, then you'll have just the water pump sensor, and the second sensor on the automatic is in the transmission. And you can see that in the back here, and we'll pause just for a moment. All right, hit pause on the video and go back if you missed that. Anyways, 94.5 on up to production date 12 of 1998. That's what we're going to hit down first. And you have two sensors. Those sensors, once again, have colors on them to indicate which one you need. Now in the back is going to be the numbers and the two different colors, and in order for you to know which one that you need, it's simple as this. So once again, 94 through 97, right on the water pump, pull that sensor lead off and connect that actually to a ground, or take yourself a little screw or paper clip or whatever, ground her out and have somebody in the cab, or make sure it's grounded out really good and walk yourself over to the front of the cab. And if the temperature gauge on your instrument cluster is maxed out, then you'll need this sensor right back here. If it's not, then you need the opposite sensor, which once again is numbered right back here, and of course hit pause to grab those numbers if you need them. Now when we get into the 2003 model year, things start to change just a little bit here. So in the scheme of things, we've got actually a total of 4 different sensors throughout these years. But in the 03 model, they're actually going to use a engine oil temperature sensor in place of the standard engine coolant temperature sensor. So keep that in mind if you have the 03. So why do we have two sensors? All right. The first sensor that is on the water pump itself, that is nothing more than for the gauge. That wire right there doesn't make a difference if you have 94.5 all the way up to 2003. That right there, that wire just heads through the loom and heads right up to your dash, and that is what tells the gauge at which stage of the game that your engine temperature is going to be at. Now, the second one on the manual transmission, the engine coolant sensor is used as the primary input to the electronic control system to enable adaptive cooling. This provides the means of providing adequate cooling in severe engine temperature conditions. When the ECT is greater than 225 degrees, the fueling rate of the engine is going to modify itself and provide cooling protection and prevent the engine damage and from overheating. Basically is that as the engine heat rises, now the engine oil temperature sensor is basically taking in the most amount of information. But IH Navstar didn't stop at that. They wanted a second idea of what's going on for the computer to assess. So the one that is on the timing cover, and this is mostly in the later year 7.3s, that heads, both of those models all head to the odometer cluster, or the cluster on the dash. That's going to turn the light on. That's emergency time. You've got a real problem if the light turns on. But before that and at that point, that one sensor is telling the PCM to save itself. Save me, save me, save me. So it's going to defuel. It's going to take away power. It's going to lower itself down to save itself from grenading or burning out the motor. That is the whole idea of that second sensor in there. If you have an automatic transmission, your sensor, once again, located right there. Probably a really good idea with this sensor right here is if you ever do yourself a transmission flush, changing out the filter, changing out the fluid, just take it out, put a brand new one in there. You know, we're not talking about something that is excessively expensive here. It's no more difficult than just basically pulling off the plug, giving it a quarter turn, and pulling it down. And once you do that, you know, step back. A lot of fluid is going to come flying on out of there. But anyways, put your new one in, give it the quarter turn back in, and plug her back in and finish your transmission fluid flush. But basically, these sensors are very critical in the runnability, and if you're having some transmission problems maybe, don't immediately think, oh geez, you know, the transmission's bad, and I'm just talking about automatic transmissions here. Go down, see if you pull any codes on this, keeping in mind that the 7.3 computer is a very basic computer. A lot of times it doesn't show the codes even though that there's an issue until the sensor's completely burnt out. But either which way, go down, have somebody test it, or if you have ForceScan or something like that, plug yourself on in. If you have a better testing equipment or higher end testing equipment, that's probably the best way to do it. And go through those two sensors, both the one that is on the water pump and the one that is on the timing cover. Just isolate those out, and you'll be able to see if it's working properly. The one that's in the transmission, same thing, just isolate that out. See if it's working before you start thinking that you need a complete tear down and a complete overhaul of an automatic transmission. So if you want to test this, and this is more towards the 99.5 on up to 03, the older OBS, basically when they're shot, you're going to know it. They either work or they don't work. But on the 99.5 or production date 12 of 1998 and above, if you want to test these, room temperature once again, and we just want to do an ohm resistance test on it, just positive to positive, negative to negative. And what you should be getting is about 3 ohms. Now, if you test it and you have like 300 ohms, you got the wrong sensor. And this does happen, which brings me to the point again. Do not go down to the local automotive store and get any sensor or order something on Amazon that is not a Ford original sensor. That doesn't mean not ordering it from Amazon. Don't get aftermarket junk. It will fail. They're normally the incorrect sensor because what they try to do is take all the sensors and put them all together and hopefully it'll work for a while. Stick with Ford original motor parts, period. That way you have the correct one. But anyways, I hope you've learned something today, and you take it easy and you have a good day. You're still here yet? It's over. Oh, I know. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, the little bell, you know, the little bell, and that'll tell you every time I post a new video. Also go root around in my previous videos and you'll find a lot of interesting content. Until then, go home. Oh yeah, the garbage can's over there. You know, don't be making a mess. You know, clean up after yourself. Go, go.